It was a really bad day for the Michigan Wolverines, the reigning national champion Wolverines. Where do they go from here? Coming up next. Welcome to the Point a Minute show on Michigan football at the Voice of College Football, where we average one outstanding point for every minute of video. My name is Cliff. His name is Mac. Let's get into it. Michigan lost in epic fashion to Texas and fell to number 17 in the AP poll as a result. I don't think it was a game that many of us were expecting. We talked last week about how Fresno State felt like the 23 Maryland game, where Michigan was expecting a big-time opponent the following week, and that might have resulted in some lackluster play because they overlooked the current opponent. Michigan was not lackluster against Texas. They were outmatched, outplayed, dissected, and dominated, to the point we're evaluating every expectation for the rest of the 24 season. Before we get into that, though, let's talk about Texas. Mac, were you surprised by this outcome?
I just wanted to say real quick, man, that was a whole lot of adjectives to describe that game, and I'm frankly impressed.
I have more
by your thesaurus reading skills, so nice job.
But I'd have to cut them out.
Was I surprised by the outcome? Yes and no. So there are two ways I think you can look at this loss. So one is to count the entire season as lost and wonder how exactly it is that a team can drop off this much after winning a national championship. Just friendly reminder, though, that LSU won a Natty in 2019 and then fired its coach less than 2 years later. Just want to put that out there. So it's not unheard of that a team has this much of a drop-off. Just cross your fingers that we don't end up hiring Brian Kelly. The other way to look at it is that no matter how much we wanted to believe that there'd be no fall-off, you just can't lose an entire national championship winning coaching staff and roster to the NFL and expect to be just as good the following year. I mean, you can criticize Michigan for not getting a quarterback in the portal. I don't entirely agree with that, but you can criticize them for it. You can criticize Michigan for not getting a quarterback recruit, a good one that is. But the fact is, Michigan went all in on last year's national championship season. All of that time spent recruiting their own players to stay, dealing with the NCAA's bogus investigation, developing the team. That may have taken away from future planning, and now Michigan's kind of dealing with the fallout of that. But it's amazing to me how many people said that they don't care what happens this year because we won the national championship and are now talking about how Davis Warren is Michigan's worst ever starting quarterback. Newsflash, he's not. And now Sharon Moore isn't going to last long. I mean, you people all need to calm down. Seriously.
Well, and that's typical for a lot of the premier team fan bases. You know, it's you have to win every game or you're fired mentality. Even though we know that's not reasonable, it still happens. And I think that gets exacerbated now on social media. Mm-hmm. But Mac, what are some of the things you think Michigan needs to improve on, things that Michigan can build on as they're looking to Arkansas State and USC in the next couple of weeks?
Yeah, so we said at the beginning of the season that if Davis Warren were able to get a completion percentage of about 62%, that Michigan could repeat as at least Big Ten champs and make the CFP. Well, guess what? Davis Warren completed 66% of his passes against Texas. I don't think any of us was expecting, though, that the run game would be non-existent. And that's really the issue with Michigan's production on offense so far. They averaged 3.7 yards per carry against Texas. That's not going to sustain drives. And then you run the risk of your defense getting gassed, which is absolutely what happened. Michigan's defense was gassed. To keep that from happening, though, Michigan really needs to improve their O-line. They really need to get the O-line to gel a bit better. Right now, I don't think you can count on Davis Warren to get you out of a pressure situation and sustain drives, but you can count on him to move the ball when the offense is in rhythm. That's the way that it seems so far. But that requires a balanced attack, which makes a running game absolutely necessary to the success of this offense. We've talked about how he might just be 2021 Cade McNamara. That's just fine with me. But that means that Michigan really needs to address what's happening on the O-line and establish a better run game. The other thing is turnovers, and this is where Davis Warren diverges from Cade McNamara. So, like I said before, Warren doesn't perform well in pressure situations, those situations where Michigan's offense is really looking for a spark to get things going. That spark has to come from the running back room because that's Michigan's identity. And honestly, I think that's where the game was lost. Michigan is O-line U. They are the team that bullies you, and Saturday was the first time in a long time we've seen them get stripped of that identity.
And so mathematically, though, Michigan is not actually out of the playoff hunt, especially with Notre Dame's inexplicable loss to Northern Illinois. I do want to point out, too, that the loss to Texas doesn't really change the predictions from outlets like Athlon, Lindy's, and Phil Steele. All three of them had Michigan missing the Big Ten championship, getting a playoff bid, and then losing in the first round. Obviously, the magnitude of the loss to Texas makes that road more difficult. But what are your thoughts on Michigan's chances of making the CFP now?
I was looking at ESPN's FPI index, and honestly, I go back and forth on whether or not I trust the FPI, but right now they have Michigan with an 11% chance to make the playoffs. No doubt helped by Notre Dame being Notre Dame. I have to question its validity, though, because right now it's giving Michigan a better chance at beating Oregon than Indiana. So I really don't know what to make of that. My thing is this: if Davis Warren can complete 66% of his passes against Texas, then he can do it again against everyone else on that schedule, apart from maybe Ohio State. All that leaves is for Michigan to establish something of a running game. Maybe other teams will stack the box. That's fine. Then allow Warren to throw some deep balls. He had a perfect passer rating against Texas on passes of over 20 yards. That's something to build on. It's not sustainable, but it's buildable. If Warren can keep that up and force teams to respect the deep-ish ball or the passing game, then suddenly defenses stop stacking the box and Michigan can try running again. And boom, identity restored. If I'm Sharon Moore this week, I'm telling Kirk Campbell to call nothing but passing plays, and I'm keeping Davis Warren in the whole game no matter the score. Get him reps. Get him some confidence. Let him have a great game and see what's possible. The reason I say all of this is because Davis Warren said in his press conference that he knows this team is good enough to beat teams like Texas, and maybe they are, but it's clear that the reason they didn't is because they couldn't establish the run, and they couldn't establish the run because no defense respects Michigan's passing attack enough to back out of stacking the box.
So I guess it all kind of hinges on the culture at Michigan. Is this the team of the Rich Rod years that would give up at halftime, or is this the team that follows like the spirit of Harbaugh with attacking the day with an enthusiasm unknown to mankind? I don't know if you have any insight onto the culture of Michigan, but what are your thoughts? Is this Rich Rod Michigan, or is this Harbaugh Michigan as far as, the spirit of the team and the culture?
It's not Rich Rod, Michigan. The spirit of Jim Harbaugh lives on in Schembechler Hall. The culture of Michigan football, I think, is very much intact. I think it's a matter of brand new players getting experience for the first time, and Texas was not a team that you wanted to put a brand new roster up against to get that experience. I think it'll just require some time. I think maybe with the way that Michigan's schedule is stacked this year, I mean, you've got USC in a couple weeks, you've got Oregon just a few weeks after that, and then Ohio State. It's not going to be easy. Washington, they've been putting up some modest scores, but they've got a good defense. We'll have to see about them. The point is this, is that Michigan might not have a good year strictly because they're a team that would have benefited from an easier non-conference and eased into the Big Ten season, and then probably still would have gone 10-2, 9-3. Mm-hmm. The problem is, though, is that Michigan's schedule is so tough this year that they might end up going 7-5. But I think that's the floor.
That's what we think. Let us know what you think. Leave a comment, like, subscribe if you want more great analysis on college football. Don't forget to check out all of the shows on Michigan football at the Voice of College Football. And while you're at it, check out all the channels in the Voice of College Football Network. You can also catch us live on the Big Ten Team Rivalry Show Monday nights at 8 right here on YouTube. Mac, take us out.
This is Michigan football at the Voice of College Football.